Hey guys, how you doing? We are live and it is a beautiful night with a beautiful sunset. I wish you could see it. How's it going, guys? He wants dad? I gotta take that. That's duty calling. I just went live on a live stream. You wanna say hi?
Hi, everyone. Hi, say hi, Pa. Say
Say hi, Papa. You blow a kiss? Alright, Papa. Very cool. Brady, look at the sunset. Yeah, you guys can't appreciate how good it is from here. Brady, is the ball in the sky? Where's the ball in the sky?
I don't think it's out.
Oh, it's not out right now.
Alright, we gotta go to bed, Papa.
Can I have a kiss? I love you, Papa. You got him?
Yeah, I'm good. Let's go straight into bed.
I'll have to go in then. So, anyway, guys, that was my beautiful wife and my beautiful child, Brady. And I'm out here on a beautiful night watching the sunset. We just went for a nice long family walk. And, almost every day I get to put my boy to sleep. Hold on, let me turn on the fire really quick. Almost every night I get to not just put my boy to sleep, but I get to spend the majority of my day with my boy. I mean, I'm doing a lot of work, I'm working on things, but I set up a home office and I do what I gotta do from home, and that's the way it should be. Hold on one second, let me get this propane tank going. If I can. Yeah. A little bit of fire. And there it is. So, I was talking to my wife about the day, and it's, what happened, what did I miss? Because, that's the good stuff. That's what you want to know about. And she showed me a picture. I'll probably post it on Instagram tomorrow. And of my son, and he picked a beautiful green pepper. He picked a beautiful green pepper. And he was so happy. And when I think about it, he's about to be 18 months old. And at the beginning of the summer, we started our garden, and he's taken a big part in the putting together of our garden. From the time he was, been a few months now, 15 months old, we've been putting this garden together, building things up, and he watched it. He watched us create the garden boxes and lay down the garden sheet and put on the soil and dig the holes and plant the seeds. And, oh, hey, Lucy. Hey, buddy. It's my dogs. And now we have a beautiful garden. I know it's a little dark out, but you guys should be able to see it. Get you a little closer. A little too dark? A little too dark? Yeah, I think it might be too dark. I'll have to show you guys the garden tomorrow. But, so he watched our food grow. He watched this pepper grow from the time it was a seed. So, to him, he got a first-hand look at where food comes from, that what life is, that life grows, that life has to be nourished. And every day we take him outside and we water the plants, and everything we do as a family, he's an important part of. And throughout his childhood, I always want to stress what's real and what's important, because a lot of this world is fake, a lot of this world is distraction, and when we're trying to raise well-rounded people, one of the best ways to do that is to spend less time with the distractions and more time with what is real. So, what are the distractions? My dog's fighting as I try to live stream. That's a distraction. What are you guys doing? What are the distractions? Well, for one, I never ever put the television on for my boy. That's just not something he does. And because of that, you see how active. Hey guys, can you take this fight off the... Buddy, I'm gonna put you on the floor and Lucy will follow you because she loves you. There you go. Stay on the floor with Lucy. Run around. Look at him. Look at them. They can't help themselves. So, I've never turned on the television for my boy. I mean, maybe a handful of times, but it's 18 months and it's just not something I do. Every now and then my wife will turn on the television for him, but we pretty much agree that that's just not what we want him seeing. And because of that, he's always running, he's always playing. And this is the type of philosophy that people need to adopt, that they should adopt in the raising of their children. That life skills, being involved in the real world, running, playing, learning through exploring, having time to yourself. You know, I posted on Instagram, Classical Learner Today, I posted from Nikola Tesla. And the quote goes something along the lines of, time spent alone is the mother of invention, or something of that, along those lines, that a person needs their solitude. And in the modern world, people don't have solitude. Everything's television, young people, television, video games, movies, the news, whatever it might be, and everyone has their distraction, and the casualty is reality. The casualty is spending time out in nature, looking up at the stars, watching a sunset, watching a sunrise, seeing how beautiful the North Star is in the sky, hearing your neighbor's car go off in the background. Beautiful. You know, I don't follow politics at all anymore. It's kind of hilarious because I was so into it, because I realized that even being aware about that type of thing is just another layer of distraction that itself is not real. I mean, when I think about, I could have told you everything about politics. I could still rattle off a good amount. But when you think about how it actually plays out, it's a lot like the WWE, and people think it's real. You know, you had Robert Mueller, and he just testified in front of Congress, right? And everyone was up in arms about that. And, you know, I didn't watch it because it's not what I do anymore. But all of these investigations, they're in these congressional hearings, they're just a dog and pony show. It's, no one gets arrested, nothing, it doesn't matter what laws are broken. It's just a show. It's just to get the people in the country riled up, let them feel like something's being done, even though we all know nothing's done. We see congressional hearing after congressional hearing, administration after administration, and people get caught lying under oath, and no one's ever prosecuted. And, you know, you had Trump run against Hillary, and, you know, if Trump wins the election, what's he going to do? He's going to lock her up. And then I see it's years later, and you see people, they're still chanting, lock her up, lock her up. And you see that people they've been sucked into a false reality that's created by the screens. But if you want to make the world better, if you want to change your life, the way you do that is you do that at home, right? So you want to change your life. And my dog's looking at me like, really, Dad? What are we talking about here? You want to change your life for the better, you got to do it at home. You got to do it at the grassroots level. So how do you do that? Well, today, my 18-month-old son, he picked a pepper, and he was so excited about it that we grew in our garden. And our garden's not much. It's like 10 by 20. we have peppers, we have cucumbers, we have lettuce, we have tomatoes, we have strawberries, we have watermelons, we have eggplants. Nothing much, but it's a good start for us, and we're going to be going down south, and once we do, we're going to grow lots of crops, but it's good training, and it's good experience with what is real in the world, because that's what's real. It's making a garden, it's spending time with your family, it's getting involved in your community, it's spending time with your local church, it's getting to know your neighbors, it's having a dream and spending the time necessary to build up the skill set needed to chase your dream. It's starting a business because you don't want to work a 9-to-5 job. Because for anyone that's had a mortgage, for anyone that's done that, you know that over time it starts to feel like slavery. So, I mean, you want to talk about what most people do, right? What do most people do? Most people play the script. They do what they're supposed to do. Hey, Astro, how's it going? Most people, well, let me give my experience, right? I mean, I was told to do good in school. I didn't take that too seriously, but by the time I got to college, I got my bachelor's degree, I got my master's degree, and then, you do that, and people take on the college debt, and you get out of school, and what do they tell you to do next? They tell you to get a car, take out a loan for that. They tell you to buy a house, take on a mortgage, and people find themselves struggling and following what's going on the screen. And people have their vice. It could be professional sports. It could be, whatever it is. It could be movies. Oh, wow, Switzerland's in the house. That's great. That is cool. It could be movies. It can be politics. But people have their vice, and they spend their time looking at the screen, getting agitated about what's happening at the screen, screaming at the screen, and all the while they don't realize what they're missing, that there's a world out here, that over the summer, whenever I'm not doing nighttime work, which I do a lot, but I spend my time out here, I spend my time out with my wife, and we look up at the stars, and we light the fire, and we hang out, and it's nice. And when I think about these concepts, and I think about how do I want to apply them to the education of my child, and what I do at Classical Learner, I make customized home education plans for families, and that includes full-out homeschooling, that includes just extra curriculum type stuff. So some people will send their children to public school, but I'll still work with them, and we'll create plans for their children while they're home. There's so many different things you can do. There's no one right way to educate a person, but when Brady grows up, what I want for him is to avoid the pitfalls that I made. I want him to not get a job, but I want him to create his own job, create his own career. So because of that, within everything we do, you include marketing in daily routines, sales into daily routines. You always encourage your child to level up. If he's interested in video games, have him create a video game. Have him learn computer coding and make his own game. There's so many things that you can do that teach the proper mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset, especially from a young age. You want to teach that. So, I want him to grow up, and I want him to be independent. And I want him to be in touch with nature, and I want him to be spiritual. So, they grow up, and your religious beliefs, your morals should be part of an education. So, once a week, have a discussion about a verse in the Bible, and you want them to know where food comes from. So you have a garden, and if you're fortunate enough and you get out when you get some land, then you spend time farming, and you let him see where food comes from and understand how to grow his own food so that he's not reliant on going to a grocery store and that type of stuff. You teach the skills of life. You teach financial literacy. There's a lot can be learned from playing games. You grow up, you play Monopoly once a week. You get the game Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki, which is designed to teach financial literacy. And you play, you start by playing Cash Flow for Kids. No, I'm not a future mainstream commentator. That's the last thing I want. I would, it's funny you say that, because like when I was doing the hardcore political stuff, and if you guys haven't watched my early work, I mean, I was making some really good documentaries on things, and my family members would say, oh, you should send your resume to mainstream media outlets, and what I would say to them is that's the last thing I want. I detest that. I think that is everything that's wrong in the world, and especially now where I'm going. My ultimate goal will be to get completely off grid. I just want to farm. I want to farm. I want land. I want no mortgage. A farm, my own business. I want to spend time with my family. I want to grow my food, cook my food, collect my rainwater. Yeah, trust me, you don't want the mainstream. That's if you didn't catch the beginning of my stream, what I was saying is that I've never turned the TV on for my son, and I myself, I don't watch TV. I was talking about how earlier today he picked a pepper, a green pepper. It was the first big pepper that he picked of the summer, and we've been growing it for 3 months, and he was so excited to pick that pepper. And that's what life's about. It's about, especially childhood. It should be spent in nature, away from screens, running around, playing, doing all of that good stuff. Because everyone spends their time so distracted. And so, just getting back on track. So yeah, you want to teach. Yeah, man, congratulations. I hope you could achieve that farming route. Because it's in my opinion, it's a better lifestyle. Especially you get out from debt, avoid usury, and be a little bit more spiritual. But you incorporate all of these things into your child's education. So you teach entrepreneurial mindset, an abundance mindset. You teach financial literacy. You want to talk about the failures of the school system, right? 18-year-olds can't even balance a checkbook, but if an education was good, an 18-year-old would have a firm command of the difference between an asset and a liability. By the way, most adults I speak to don't understand the difference between an asset and a liability because they define asset and liability by what they're told. So what are they told, right? So, well, all right. What is an asset? What is an asset? Because we learn what assets and liabilities are through the bankers, right? We learn what assets and liabilities are through our financial advisors. So, what is an asset? Most people will tell you that their house is their biggest asset, right? Well, I'm going to tell you why a house isn't an asset. It can be, but your house isn't your biggest asset. So, most people, they take on big mortgages, right? So just take someone, say they're making $100,000 a year, right? And they're making that $100K, and they have their mortgage, and the mortgage is let's just say $3,000 a month, $3,000 a month. And every month they go and they work for that paycheck, and they take $3,000 out of their pocket every month. That'd be $36,000 in the year, and they put it right toward their house. So that's money out of their pocket. It's money that they can't use to make other money. It's money being taken away from them, and then most people live paycheck to paycheck. Now, the bankers will say, well, yeah, that's an asset because your house is going up in value, right? So that's an asset because, your house is going to appreciate in value. You buy it for whatever people buy it for, $400,000, and don't worry, in 30 years you'll sell that house for $650,000. First, what they don't tell you is that, you buy that house for the $400,000, right? And you're right, when you sell it, it will probably be worth $650,000. Now, that's a gamble, right? Because although markets do generally go up, you don't know what could happen, and the value can in fact go down. So that's a guess. But here's the kicker: when you buy that house and take out that mortgage for $400,000, you don't pay $400,000 and then sell the house for $650,000. You pay interest. So like, of that $3,000 you pay a month on the mortgage, you'll be shocked to find out that like $2,400 of it every month goes only to interest, and then $500 or $600 a month, that's it. At the beginning, $500 to $600 a month actually goes toward paying down the loan you took out. So on that $400,000 loan, you wind up paying $800, $900, $1 million to the bank, and then you sell your house for $650,000, $700,000 30 years later, and they say, oh, you see, this was an asset. Look, you made $300,000. Well, no, they know people can't do math and don't understand interest, and actually you wound up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on the transaction, and the whole time you had to live paycheck to paycheck, sweating bullets every month, worried about saying the wrong thing to your jackass boss because he'll fire you, and then you lose your house and your family be out on the streets. So the bankers will tell you that's an asset. And the reason they tell you that is it's an asset to them, because what's happening is you take out the mortgage and you take the money that you earn from your pocket every month and you give it to the bank. Then the bank, for every $1 you give them, by law, it's called fractional reserve banking, they are able to lend out $10. You say, how does that work? You only gave them $1 and the bank can lend out $10. Well, the way that works is under fractional reserve banking, essentially what they do is they just print the money. They create money from nothing. So the money that the banks lend out that you're paying back this interest on, that's their asset and your liability, but they're telling you it's an asset. They don't even have to give you money they have. It's just numbers on a computer screen. They just generate more money. That's why when people talk about paying back like a country's debt, there's more debt than there is money, because that's how that works. The money's generated from the bank. So most people think their house is their greatest asset, but in reality, a house is your greatest liability. An asset is properly defined by anything that puts money directly into your pocket every month. Or whenever. It could be every week, every day. Anything that puts money directly into your pocket. So, a house can be an asset. Why do you think people participating in usury? I know so many people that just aren't happy in this type of lifestyle. People have a very difficult time breaking cultural norms, and people have a very difficult time thinking for themselves. And to be frank, very similar to why people take college debt, is people don't understand what it is. They don't understand the beast, and by the time they understand it, it's because they've already experienced it, and then you're in a 6-foot grave trying to dig your way out of it. So people just don't understand, and people are controlled by their culture. I mean, I'm not even capable of, I have to hold my tongue and have boring conversations with most of society, because if you try to approach people with any degree of depth, they just look at you like you have 3 heads and you're crazy. What do you mean? What are you saying? That my house isn't my greatest liability? You don't know what you're talking about, young man. A house is your greatest liability because you buy it, and years later we will sell it. We will sell it for double the price that we bought it for, young man. And oh, in order to artificially keep up demand for that house, we are going to have to bring in immigrants from the third world because there were way too many baby boomers. Then there were more baby boomers than there are young people. So based on supply and demand, the price of houses should be going down. So yes, we're going to vote to flood the country with people from the third world so that we can artificially drive up the prices of our houses with fake money and we could screw your future for ours. I don't know why my accent got more British as I went along. I'm not good at accents, but that's basically what it is. So back to where I was going, because there's important concepts, right? These are the type of things I teach at Classical Learners so that children understand them. This is what I help parents teach their children. So an asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket, and that's how it's properly defined. Now, you can do with that definition what you want. There's people that take different approaches. So a house is an asset. Let's say you buy, if you're 20-something years old, rather than take on a mortgage where you're losing money every month, maybe when you're 22, 24, 25 years old and you're looking to buy your first house, a better solution is to buy a duplex as your first house. And then you live in one side and you rent out the other side. And let's say from that rent, rather than losing money every month on your living situation, maybe you make only $50 a month. I almost got into big college debt, but I left. Yeah, I mean, I'll get into college in a minute. But yeah, college is just it's a Ponzi scheme. But so yeah, under that example, right, a young person now, they have a house, they own the house. Rather than have money taken out of their pocket, they're actually making $50, $100 a month just to live there. So they're living for free, basically. They're making $50 to $100 a month, and then, yes, in 30 years, they'll get the appreciation on that house. So they get all the benefits of everything. That's a much more sound financial strategy. Now, there's other people that will start to buy rental properties. Now, those are definitely assets. You own a rental property. Let's say, keep the number small. You buy a small rental property. Let's say your mortgage, your expenses on it, maybe $700 a month. You rent it out for $1,200 a month. Well, you own the house as much as, just use that definition for now. You have the house, it's in your name, and you're making $500 a month on it. You're setting yourself up to be successful, not just now, so that you're not a slave to debt, but later in life. Now, there's people that will tell you different things. If you have good credit, essentially, if you lay down 10%, so like you could get a house for $100,000, lay down $10,000, take on $90,000 in debt, and say, as long as your renters are covering the cost of what you have to pay back to the bank every month, well, then it's still an asset. Now, you got to be careful with that because that's, you're playing a game with usury. What I suggest to young people is if you can, rather than do that, raise up $30,000, $40,000, buy a house in cash, start renting that out, rinse, repeat. This way you don't have a mortgage and you're getting the rental money, and that's just, it's one way to do it. But there's this guy, Michael Zuber, I did an interview with, one rental at a time. He's a big advocate of using that. It's called debt weapons, that debt strategy. And what he does is, how he started, he essentially started buying fourplexes. So he would take on debt to buy a fourplex. He'd have 4 renters, then he had 8 renters, then 12 renters. But this is the type of stuff that just isn't taught to young people. And because of that, people find themselves in... Papa's still up? He's freaking out? Hey, Papa. How's my little boy? You see the fire? Hey, buddy, relax. I was talking to the people about assets versus liabilities. Um, so these are the type of things that aren't taught, and if you understand them, you could start to live a better lifestyle and don't have to find yourself in the so-called rat race that everyone else is in. But I'm gonna cut the stream short because I got my little guy here, and maybe he wants to look at the stars with Daddy Papa. So I'm gonna cut the stream short. Check out my Instagram page, Class Learner Cadet. Check out my website, www.classicallearner.com. I write my blog on there. I could go into greater detail on a lot of these concepts, and really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. So have a good night, guys.